All right, I want to welcome everybody again to another live with Aussie bodybuilding legend Craig Winters. How are you doing, Craig?
Very good, Sean. Great to be back, and I'm very stoked and excited to do my first wrap-up with you, your good self, of the Arnold. So, yeah, let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, well, you're actually knee-deep in your own contest prep. This is number 63 for you, so how's that all going?
Yeah, it's going good. I just need to get back in the zone. I need to just totally clean up everything, which I'm basically just about there. And I need to start incorporating this time around those stand efforting style 10-minute walks that I'm going to be doing after evening meals to try and lower insulin. Try and do that instead of the longer cardio. And I'm still pretty low body fat from my previous shows, so I don't need to be going too crazy at the moment. I've still got 10 weeks. But looking forward to it, and just do a few things differently this time. But hopefully,
we'll keep us
present a slightly fuller package. Hopefully this time. Yep.
Yeah, keep us informed. That we're looking forward to see how another carnivore prep goes for you. So just let's get your opening thoughts on the contest that's just happened this weekend with the Arnold Classic, the 2024. It was another banger of a competition by all accounts. I didn't get a chance to tune in and watch it, but what were your thoughts?
Well, I always look forward to these shows, and now that Arnold's, live streaming this for free, it made it very easy. But honestly, the live stream production was the best I've ever seen. The lighting, just the camera angles, the camera didn't flick around all over the place. The 3 or 4 camera angles were perfect. All the competitors were still full size. You didn't just see them chopped in half. The commentary was quite good, although some of Fuad and Dennis's commentary I didn't agree with, but that's just the same with any competition. With judges' decisions, you don't necessarily agree with what they're saying. It's a subjective sport. But all in all, it was great. Arnold has put it out there, hasn't he, that he wants his show to be number 1. It's very clear.
Yeah, that's right. Arnold's always numero uno, so we'll talk a little bit about that later on, but That's right. We'd open up the discussion first with the classic, because that's what this channel is more oriented towards. And it seems that that's where a lot of people's eyeballs are now trending these days. Yeah. But it's really funny because I thought I would want to open up with a Greg Doucette clanger, because he said that this year's winner, Wesley Vintage Genetics Bisses, would never, ever win a pro show. So what were your thoughts on Wesley's conditioning and package that he bought this year?
Well, that was Wesley Disses, wasn't he? He was trying to diss him back then, but no, I've been a big fan of Wesley for years. He just had that Arnold-esque physique, even though Arnold likened him to Lou Ferrigno in the victory speech. That was a bit wacky. But no, for me, Wesley's always had that classic physique. The division is all about structure. I keep banging on about that structure. They need to be tall, wide, big X-frame, V-taper. And Wesley's had all of that and got all of that. He's got good long muscle bellies. His physique, I keep saying, it does look a lot like Arnold's. He even posed he poses beautifully like Arnold did back in the day, and others. And it was, for me, it's not a surprise. All he needed to do, he's 6'3". He just needed to fill out his frame. It's taken him about 9 or 10 years. And by Jesus, he'd done that. It was mind-boggling when he came out. I think a lot of people were surprised, and for me, he just blew everyone away. Even Ramon looked fantastic, but put them side by side, and Wesley's just such an imposing figure, much bigger man, and was in outstanding condition. Grainy, he's got the muscle maturity now, big back, his waist's in check. Vacuum, so it's just not a surprise. I don't know why people bagged him out, or didn't think that he was capable. So
yeah, there were a lot of broken hearts in Brazil after this. There was a lot of broken hearts in Brazil after this decision as well. Apparently, the death threats have already started rolling into Wesley and his family. So yeah, brace yourself, Wes. But it was interesting that Arnold diss on Wesley, because I sort of thought, he's almost got your structure, Arnold. But then I sort of thought a little bit more, why did Arnold diss him? And I was sort of thinking, he's probably pointing at the Ferrigno calves, because Arnold could never let a good slate go. And I think Wesley's has those unfortunate Dennis Wolf calves, and I don't know, unless he goes the Frigno calf implant route, he's always going to be cursed with them. I sort of thought that we could do a quick comparison because Wesley is taller than C-Bum. So the Olympia has been prescient for its upsets recently. Do you think that Wesley's a threat if C-Bum comes in slightly off with the package that Wes presented today?
Well, that's a really good question. My immediate thoughts were that, and then of course I go on socials, and then all of a sudden people are putting up comparisons straight away. Look, Chris, like I've said before, is a man amongst boys when he gets on stage. The way he presents, that's a beauty. Yeah, well done. You know, you can see that Wesley's just big, wide. It's got a lot of muscle. He's got very long muscle bellies, you know, that where he's filled out his frame. Chris has just got that graininess and gnarliness that comes with age and super thin skin. But Wesley's getting close. He's getting very, very close to that. And Wesley's posing, like I said, is exceptional. He's got all the golden era poses. And if you look at those quads, I mean, Chris has got a few little dents and chinks. You know, Wesley's quads look fresh and full and
let's go through it pose by pose then in that case. So who do you got in arms between Chris and Wesley?
Well, Wesley all day. I mean, look at the size of his arms. Absolutely. Chest is Wesley because it's wide, flaring, striated. His side chest, Wesley's side chest. Oh, geez, he absolutely blew Ramon away. I tell you, it's just. I mean, I think Chris has got a slightly smaller waist, you know, but they've both got a.
Oh yeah. How about the legs? Obviously, Wes in this case.
Well, you know, Chris has got slightly better adductors, but really you just want those flaring. I mean, have a look at Wesley's quads, the separation. Chris has got that, what looks to be on his right quad, that tear that he must have had some years ago. It looks pretty, it doesn't look that bad, but Wesley's are just amazing. Just the flare, the length of the muscle belly is very reminiscent of Arnold's big, you know, Arnold's big VMO, you know. Wesley's got the same thing. Yeah, sensational.
And how about that important show killer, the lats in the back?
Yeah, so I think Wesley's back is really big and wide. His lats don't insert too high for a tall man, so that's good. But Chris's back double is pretty outstanding. So I think Chris might have him in the back double just, but Wesley can do something about that. You know, I believe so. You know, I think it's going to be could be a really good battle. But Wesley has to repeat or better his all-time best, which we saw this weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can do that. I think he's capable. Hopefully, him and his coach have got a winning formula now. They've hit the sweet spot. Wesley said he got to Columbus early. And everything just went perfectly for him in the days leading up. He had a beautiful flight. There was no stress. He reckons with his flights, there's always something goes down, something's wrong. But his flight was good. So everything was lining up for him, even from his flights. He knew something was going to go well. There was just a purple patch of events. And then when he got there, even his training was good. His body started to respond. So there's that, you know, lower cortisol with less stress can definitely reflect and impact your physique, can't it?
Yeah, but we all know that, you know, when it comes to repeated wins and lineups, Murphy's Law always creeps in and things don't always go their way. So he was probably fortunate this time. Yeah. So Bruce Hatfield says that these comps usually won from the front. Black Betty has said, Wesley's teardrops nearly go up to his hip, just like Arnold's. And
that's right, the same VMO.
Old school bodybuilding. If Wesley got more size on the quads, abductors, and hamstrings, it's life out for the rest of the Olympia. It's quite interesting. So yeah, keep those comments running, coming in as well, because we love the comments and the questions. A lot of people have said that Urs beating Brion was quote unquote a fucking travesty. What do you say to that?
Well, vehemently disagree, simply because I think Urs has got the classic structure. He poses. He won best poser very easily, and he just needs to fill out that 25-year-old frame, which he's doing. So for me,
can he do it anymore though? Because he's already at the weight cap.
Yeah, I think we've seen over the years there's been many bodybuilders that haven't added much weight to their physique, but you can see they've got harder and grainier and presented more density, but haven't put on a lot of extra weight. That's yeah. I mean, you could go back many years and. With people like Lee Labrada and so on, their weight didn't go up by much, Sean Ray, but their physiques were getting better and harder. So that's what Wesley needs. He needs, not Wesley, sorry, Urs needs to just get that older muscle maturity look to his physique, which I think will because he started very young, I think it'll be there within the next few years. But I see him as the heir apparent to the throne. That's what I had. That's in my mind until Wesley showed up and did that, so that was like, whoa, this is throwing a big spanner in the works. And this is why a lot of people are saying, including myself, that what a judging dilemma for Big Steve and Tyler at the Olympia. It's going to be really, really interesting. But no, I think
a lot of people also seem to say that Urs looks so much better bulked up in the off season, and maybe guys like himself and Wes could make the shift over to the open and do some damage. We've talked before about C-Bum doing the same thing. So do you think it's time that maybe Urs gives the open a try?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that to you in some notes that I sent you just a few weeks back, that when I saw Urs in the off season, he just looked sensational, and I thought, perhaps Urs to the open. I mean. You never know. I mean, he's still only 25, and if he added, more muscle, kept that waist in, he could look amazing, with full of pecs, let his legs drift out a bit in size. Although his legs are his strength, but he just needs a bit more back, and the back carries a lot of mass. So obviously, if there wasn't a weight cap, and then he could get some more mass on his back, it could look incredible because he's got a tremendous shape and structure, as I've said. So I'd love to see that. But I think he loves the classic division. He seems to be really devoted to that at the moment. So I think that the next couple of years we'll see in terms of his placings whether that deters him.
Let's switch over to the open now, Craig. Is this the best Hardy to date that we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it was, and for the main reason for that, Sean, was that he's done something in 6 months which I haven't seen for such a big man before with his waist. His waist was starting to drift out. It was starting to get a bit bigger, and he was losing a bit of control with the added size that he's put on since going from 212 to open. But he did something there, and it must have been training his his transverse abdominis muscles, the TVA, with some vacuums, like good old Rich Piana style. He must have been doing that because he almost had a full vacuum in certain poses. And so it's even standing relaxed, there'd be a vacuum or close to a vacuum, which looked impressive. And all of a sudden he crunched down on this abdominal wall, which was freaky, literally carved out of stone, to quote your channel. His abdominal wall was just serratus, thick abs, thick 3D abs, but he kept his waist in control as well as the vacuum. So
I think Hardy pulled a shadow this time around. He kind of chipped away in private until showtime, didn't show too much, and then bam, he just stepped on stage. He was massive and shredded. So credit to him.
Right. He did. Yeah.
If he turns up at the Olympia looking the same, do you think it's over for Derek Lunsford if he shows up in this condition?
Well, I think you're right. Well, he would have beaten Derek. He would have beaten Derek last year in this condition, especially with that change in his waist. It was just phenomenal. I do believe, though, to have a slam dunk against Derek, Hardy still needs to do something with his the lower half of his back, because it was still watery. It still looked to me like there was a little bit of body fat there. Yeah, he's got a great lat spread. His lat spread's phenomenal, and he poses that lat spread really well. But he needs to do something with his back double bicep pose. People are just not talking about it. They seem to leave it alone, but it's still there. It's you know, go back to Dorian Yates, Arnold himself, you know, Lee Haney. Their back double biceps were out of the box. Chris Bumstead. There's been so many of them. Ronnie Coleman. You know, their back double biceps were just lumps and bumps everywhere. And Hardy's is not like that. And for a Mr Olympia champion, he needs to, I don't know, there needs to be some changes made to his peak week, perhaps. I don't know, but they need to think about that, because Derek's back is mind-boggling, but Hardy does easily beat him from the front. And like I said, that waist differential now for Hardy, that's boosted his stock, hasn't it, hugely.
Speaking of changes, Samson might have been a little bit of a disappointment because he didn't bring the condition that was expected to this show. Some people have speculated that maybe Samson should make the switch from Milos to Hani, and Milos needs to give these insulin protocols a rest, especially for someone with such thick and dark skin. What do you think that if Samson maybe made the switch to Hani, how do you reckon he would go?
Well, Hani's become not only is he the pro maker, but how many Olympia titles has he got? I can't remember. It's some crazy number. He just knows how to turn these pros into champions. He works very closely with them. I know Milos is very, very good too. But maybe that insulin protocol, when you've got like Samson's sealskin that he's got in the back, it might not be working, because Samson from the back, he's a little bit like Hardy, really. It just hasn't got that. He needs that much thinner skin. Needs to pop more. It's that lower back. There's still a bit of a fold there. The glutes aren't really as striated. So even Hardy was better than Samson from the back. So yeah, look, I'm a big fan of Milos, and he's done well with Samson, but yeah, to take Samson's condition to the next level, there needs to be a change made to his protocol.
When I look at Samson, I see superior size, potential structure, balance, flow, symmetry. If he can just get that conditioning, if he can get that right, does he become the next unbeatable Mr Olympia, in your opinion?
Yeah, oh, look, it's all there, though, isn't it? I mean, he's such an imposing figure when he stands on stage. We talk about structure in Classic Physique. He's got the structure of the Olympia, and also what we know is at the Arnolds, they're sending a message that they really want the aesthetics back and the size. They want it to be a muscle show, but they want aesthetics. Samson's got all of that in droves, and he's just and he's a wonderful poser. He won the Best Poser Award, so that was fantastic for him. So I think he is a Mr Olympia in the making. They just need to try to work out. And the other thing I noticed, Sean, as well, there was a clincher for Hardy, was that Samson's waist, whether that's something to do with the insulin, I don't know, but it's he's got good abs, but it wasn't shrink wrapped, and his abdominal wall was starting to wash over a little bit too. So that, compared to Hardy's, I think surely it must have been straight first. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I leave that to a more trained eye. I'm just a commentator on this, but yeah. But what I sort of do wonder is, you've got Hardy, Samson, and Derek. They seem to have a lock on those top three positions at the moment. So where does a future Nick Walker fit into all of this? He's like Mr. Self-proclaimed Mr. Future Mr. Olympia. What happens to him now in this kind of lineup?
Well, you're talking to a Nick Walker fan here, my friend. So I call the Nick Walker the masthetics. So people bag him out, but by Jesus, Nick Walker's waist when he's on stage his abdominal wall is sensational, and he's got those varicose veins in the calves and all that. But Nick on stage, his condition is fantastic. There were people saying that at the Olympia, if Nick had been up there, it would have been very close between him and Derek, perhaps, because because Nick's condition would have been right up there. He's got the mass. He hasn't got the aesthetics.
He's not going to bounce back though I don't think he's going to bounce back from a hamstring injury that easily though. Once you get a hamstring tear like that, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see just how he does come back from that. I've seen recent pictures of him in the gym. He's put up a few progress pictures, and everything's looking okay and intact. So I'm hoping that he can still present the sort of condition that he has before and the size, because he adds a fantastic dimension to the open lineup, and he is a judging dilemma as well, because they're all apples and oranges, aren't they, at the moment? They really are. So
we've got an interesting comment that's rolled in, a few from the listeners. Sorry, finish your thought, mate.
No, you're good to go. Let's get some.
So Woe Blake Betty asks, did you see Dorian trying to give constructive criticism to Milos after the Olympia, and Milos wasn't having any of it?
Oh, ouch! I didn't see that, but it wouldn't surprise me, because I've seen Dorian and Milos and those others, that those old school round table guys with Dennis. I saw them at the Olympia having a chat, and with Dennis James' podcast, and Dorian seems to like to be the alpha amongst that group, not surprisingly, and Milos loves to argue. So Dorian had that crazy condition in the back that neither Hardy or Samson's got. So I'm not surprised that Dorian was happy to hand out some advices. Yeah, I've got to tune into that. So Black Betty, yeah, I need to watch that little snippet.
Old school bodybuilding chipped in and with an interesting comment here. He said the Dorian had a shock over rear double biceps pose. He didn't spread his shoulders forward. I think Craig's a bit biased there. What do you think?
Oh, Craig's biased, all right. Yeah, very biased towards Dorian. His back double biceps, yeah, it was a little bit bunched up. You're right, but it was still very grainy. It was like a road map. It was there was nothing smooth or soft. There was no creases in the lower back, in the lower half of the back. And there was no lower lats missing. You could see those lats all the way down to the hips. So, but yeah, he did bunch it up a bit compared to Coleman. So I agree in part, but still I'm very biased towards Yates, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
Just with a brief diversion into the classic physique, and not the classic, the men's physique, the Brazilians seem to be dominating that men's physique look with their ridiculous proportions. But what happened, do you know, to the proposed weight cap? Because these guys are looking huge, and they're basically like classic physique guys in board shorts.
Yeah, look, I'm just wondering, did the weight cap apply at the Arnolds? I know that's coming. So,
sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if any of our listeners know. I'm just not sure whether the weight cap applied for the Arnolds for the men's physique, because the guys still look pretty big there. Diogo Montenegro from Brazil at 1 looked sensational. It was looked very similar to Ryan Terry, actually, the way he presented. Had the good quads, those tight bodies that were like the previous tents that we saw. And Diogo, for me, was the clear winner. And it's going to be a good battle with him and Ryan Terry at the O. But Diogo looked very large, especially through the delts and the shoulders. But I suppose those areas don't carry a lot of weight or mass. It's in the legs when they start to put on size there. And they are saying that they're going to start to look at the legs now. So Diogo's got quite good quads. So it's going to be interesting, because Ryan Terry's quads are sensational. I don't know if anyone's had a proper look, but they're absolutely brilliant now that we can see them. So yes, the evolution of men's physique, I really love the way it's going. And but at the Olympia this year, with the weight cap in place, it'll be interesting to see some of those big tall guys that are super wide and got massive backs. They might have to downsize a bit, for sure.
Yes. So like the consensus now, just looking at the show overall, is that the Arnold's is becoming quickly the premier showcase for so many different things, like the strongman, the bodybuilding. It's attracting a great talent pool. It's got the fantastic lighting. They're giving away the live stream, like you said, and it's putting the Olympia production almost to shame. So I'm curious, what do you think that Jake Wood and Dan Solomon are going to do in response to Arnold increasing the prize money and the free live streaming?
Well, I was watching it yesterday when Arnold dropped that $500,000 bombshell in the lap of Jake Wood and Dan Solomon. They must have been shaking in their boots because that came from nowhere. But wow, I thought it was a sensational gesture. Arnold said in his one of his speeches earlier in the show that he was bragging about his number one book, number one show on Netflix, number one this, number one that, and it's very clear, very, very clear that he wants his show to be number one. And he said just before he announced the 500,000, he said, "Screw the rules," and then proceeded to talk about that huge paycheck. But you're right, Sean. The expo, the Arnold Expo, is apparently bigger and better. But with the strongman show and other little things like that, it really adds to it. I mean, those strongman shows, I've watched them at the Arnold Australia. They are fantastic to watch. They are a real draw card. So it's got that, but the production, the free live stream, that live stream was brilliant. And I think the Olympia production's pretty good, and the Olympia production will get better in Las Vegas at the new casino. So I think their production will be about equal, but that just the things of the free live stream, the 500 grand. I don't know what the counter comeback's going to be from Jake and Dan, but time will tell. Can't wait to hear a retort from them. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, competition only makes things better for the athletes and better for the sport overall. So it's kudos to Arnold for doing that, because he could have checked out years ago, but he keeps pouring his heart, soul, and effort into bodybuilding, which is really great. And he's only trying to make it better, which is a big props to him. I like this comment from Woe Black Betty. He said that Milos kept stating how Samson was 300 pounds, and Dorian said, "Well, it doesn't matter if you don't look it."
That's right. Yeah, I know that 300 number. They love throwing that around. I know it was with Ramy as well. They like to throw that 300 number around on stage. But I mean, Coleman was 300. Coleman used to talk about that, but at least Coleman looked 300 and was shrink wrapped all over. So yeah.
Another question from Old School Bodybuilding asks, can we see the men's board shorts and the classic division morph into one in the future now that legs and calves have been looking jacked over those boardies?
So, morph into what? Yeah, that's it. That's a really interesting question. Look, I think it's very true that the men's physique guys now are on the cusp of being classic bodybuilders. Dennis James was talking throughout the show and saying that a lot of these guys, like Diogo, could easily move up to the classic division if they just maybe added a little bit of size to their legs. But it's very, very close. I know a lot of the guys that do the board shorts division, or the men's physique, they really love that division, and I know that all the young guys love it too. So it's got a real market the way it is at the moment. So I don't know that we're going to see the morphing into one division yet, but you never know. It's a good question.
George McCann also says the Arnold has the advantage that people don't shit themselves in the pressure. Did they have the contest late at night with the Arnolds this year, or did they have it at a more reasonable hour? Because I don't know what time the athletes went on stage.
Yeah, the show, there was the prejudging, the prejudging on the Friday night. The guys came out fairly early. It wasn't 11 o'clock. They spaced it out fairly well, so they were on in the evening. And then then for the Saturday night finals, it was the evening again, but it didn't go late. The show finished quite early. I think the show finished about 10:30. So the confirmation rounds and all of that happened quite early on. So they brought him out to do their routines basically straight away. So I think all the judging had been done early in the evening, and then they did the presentations right at the end. So it was better. They weren't on as late, that's for sure. But the other thing, Sean, I was just going to say with that is that at the Arnold's they had the luxury of less divisions, because remember, he didn't have to cram in women's figure, and there was another one. Oh, the 212. The 212 wasn't there too, so that gave him the luxury of not having as many divisions and the show not running as long. So that made things a bit easier too.
Yeah, maybe Jake Wood and Dan Solomon will counter with an earlier showing, because the guys obviously perform better when they're closer to their peaks, which is, you know, the mid-afternoon, early morning. Justin Paul chipped in with a comment saying he's damn sick of all the bullshit at the strongman comps with bad down calls on overhead pressing. They need to get that under control. Craig, just before we go, were there any other highlights that you had for this year that we haven't quite touched on? I know Jay Cutler gave a rousing, sentimental speech. Is there anything else?
Yeah, look, I think people need to just try and watch that on YouTube, that speech of Jay Cutler's, because it was a really good trip down muscle memory lane where he paid homage to all of his rivals. And I thought he did it in a very heartfelt way. But plus there was some really cool video footage that they threw up. And, Jay has been a tremendous ambassador for the sport. I think no one could disagree with that. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and it didn't drag on. It didn't say, because sometimes those speeches can drag on a bit. So he well and truly deserved this Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's worth watching the replay. I think I'll try and watch it again too. So that was definitely a highlight. I did enjoy that.
Jay's a total class act, because I wasn't really much of a fan of him when he was competing, because he had that very droll, dry personality where he didn't say much. He didn't inject any personality into the sport. Yeah. But since, he's finished his competitive days, he's really come out of his shell and built his personality so that he is just now a legend and a fan favorite. And I met him by chance when I was in Vegas one time. And the amount of time that he spent just chatting with me, asking me questions in the parking lot when he was on the way to the gym, I was just blown away that this guy even gave me the time of the day, let alone a full-on conversation. So that turns me into a total fan when guys are like that.
Oh, look, I agree. The thing with Jay Cutler, he loves the sport. And just because he's not competing, he still loves the sport. Now, bodybuilders that still love the sport once they're finished are still great ambassadors. There are many that probably like the sport, but once they finish, they start to diss it and bag it out a bit. But Jay's not doing that. He's very encouraging to other bodybuilders too. He's a big fan of Nick Walker's and others. He's very, very, like you say, promotes the sport, but very encouraging to other competitors that are up and coming and doing well. But really, his Cutler cast is worth watching too. His podcast, that's fantastic.
Brilliant. The interviews are great. And he set a fantastic example and template for future bodybuilders in terms of the way, and he does credit Sean Ray for this, of doing the business before, during, and after bodybuilding. Because how many bodybuilders that we see over the years piss away their entire fortunes, never invest any money, and were forced back into doing things that they didn't want to do, like comebacks and whatnot. But Jay has just set an excellent example about how you can make bodybuilding a worthy endeavor financially if you choose to do so. You don't have to be broke and living in your car at the end of the day. One last question. Do you think that Jay was better at the 01 or the 09 Olympia?
Oh, that's a good question. Black Betty, you're on. 09. The reason I say 09 is because, I'm a fan of the freaks, so I like the mass monsters. And Jay was big. He was big in 09, that quad stomp, but he was just big all over. 01, he was big. 01, he probably was leaner and drier and harder, but he was still in very, very good condition in 09. But I just like that size factor. He had the wow factor in 09. So that's in my humble opinion.
Yeah, Black Betty was saying he compares to 01 because better lats, midsection, and no quad imbalance. One last question, Craig. When are you guys competing again? Well, for me, never. I'm done and dusted in that regard. But Craig, you have a contest coming up?
Never say never, Sean. Your physique is outstanding. Sean's got a wonderful classic physique and gets gnarly and grainy hard. So I'd love to see your physique back on the stage, that's for sure. But for me, I still enjoy competing. And hopefully season A this year be my 63rd show, so we'll give that another crack and just have fun. I just enjoy it. I've often said that when I'm preparing for a contest, I'm at my best, not just physically, but everything else seems to line up in my life too. Sort of, you get in the zone of life.
Totally agree.
So it's good. But no, I would like to see your good self back up there, my friend.
I don't know. It's definitely a time and money factor. Is there any last thoughts before we wrap things up for today, Craig?
No, just love doing the wrap up with you today, Sean. It was it's my first wrap up live in terms of on YouTube. I've done plenty on Instagram and Facebook. I like doing my write ups there, but it was good to do this today, and I can't wait to see the fallout or the counter comeback from Mr Wood and Mr Solomon after Arnold's numero uno
challenge. He's thrown down the challenge, the gauntlet. Yeah,
that's right. Stake for the biggest show on the planet. He wants the Arnold to be the Super Bowl. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Old school bodybuilding. He's asked a good question, but I think we will delve into this a little bit more about maybe controversial judging decisions for our next live. So tune in then, Old School, and we'll definitely touch on some of these more controversial ones. But that is a great question. We're a little bit out of time now, but I just want to encourage people, if you do want to read, and I'm not joking and not, exaggerating, Craig has the best written wrap-ups, in that old Peter McGuff style, or that we used to read in the Flex magazine. So add him on social media, either at his Facebook or his Instagram, and check out his write-ups because he goes into a lot of depth and they're really entertaining to read. Anything else you'd like to add, Craig?
Oh, no, just the funny thing with that, Sean, is that people say, well, why do you do these write-ups? And well, the funny thing is I love watching the show so
much. Why not?
So when I do these write-ups, I relive the experience. So I'm reliving it in my write-up. And that's why I like to do it. And then I like to sometimes read them again, years later. I'll go back and have a read of it, So I do it for myself, but a few other people seem to enjoy it. So that spurs me on. But yeah,
I've added Craig's Instagram in the bio anyway, in the details. So check him out. And I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in today and that watches the live and leaves comments and asks questions. It's really appreciated. We try to get to everyone's questions, and just thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good on you.
All right. See you next week, Craig. Bye.
See you, Sean. Catch you, mate.